In ancient times, there were unusual women, priestesses of the invisible, guardians of mysteries who would never be understood by ordinary men. They knew the power of ecstasy, not as a passing pleasure, but as a bridge between dimensions. Old reports contain rituals in which these women sealed the fate of warriors through the sexual act. They not only offered their bodies, but led silent pacts that united souls, diverted destinations, and transferred hidden powers. The uterus in this context was not just biology. It was an altar. It was a sacred chalice where energy contracts were inscribed without words, only with the flow of delivery. Every man who penetrated this temple left a part of himself and, in return, received a mark that was not always blessing. Unconsciously, he firmly accompanied him for years or lives. Do you feel that you are losing energy, even without making effort? Do you live tired, unmotivated, as if wandering without direction in a world that requires more and more of you? I know exactly what that is. And I tell you, the answer is not out. It's inside you. My name is Laerta, and after years of study, practice, and inner rebirth, I discovered what many men will never have the courage to face. True power begins in controlling their life energy, and seminal retention is the key. Here on the Gods of Semen channel, you will find out why your energy is being drained, how it affects your mind, body, and soul, and especially how to recover control of your life. Science proves, spirituality confirms, and psychology reveals. When you retain, you expand. You activate your strength, mental clarity, magnetism, and purpose. If you are tired of living off, anxious, addicted, and distant from the man you were born to be, this channel is your new home. Here you will understand that seminal retention is not abstinence. It is transformation. It is the bridge between chaos and awakening. Stay with me until the end of this video, because what I will reveal, you can turn the key to your existence. And before continuing, you already subscribe to the channel and activate the bell, because every week you will receive content that few have the courage to share. But that can change everything. You are not alone. We are a brotherhood. We are the Gods of Semen. This pact was materialized at the apex, orgasm. When the body breaks in pleasure, there is a portal. It is at this moment that the vital energy, called by the ancients of prana or spiritual semen, can be transferred, drained, absorbed. No wonder many men report, after certain experiments, a tiredness that does not fall apart, a loss of brightness in the eyes, an apathy that is not explained. The pleasure was, in fact, a ritual of emptying. There are links that do not fall over time, and science will never explain why you feel linked to someone who has moved on. It is because the wire is not physical, it is vibrational. Sex at this level is a ritual of imprisonment. And even if she has forgotten her name, the energy contract remains established, pulsing in her aura like a hidden seal. The words whispered at the time of the climax carry more than emotion. They are enchantments, commands, spells. If you said, "Forever, yours alone," you have me in the middle of ecstasy. No, your unconscious recorded as truth, and the universe as a decree. The magic force of these words acts as a code that seals the bond. This is Pleasure Man, an experience that seems sublime, but then throws you into a spiritual hole. You feel lost, drained, without focus. It is as if you have left something essential in another bed. Because it left. Because it was delivered. Some women, consciously or not, use sex as a control tool. They feel those who are spiritually vulnerable. They know how to touch the soul through the body, to dominate the spirit for pleasure. There is no violence. There is seduction. And that's where the danger lies. Everything seems too good to be a threat. Breaking these contracts is possible, but it requires courage. It must be recognized that there was a pact, even without formal ritual. We need to look back and accept that pleasure was also prison. From there, the liberation process can begin. The first step is silence. then the reconnection with one's own energy, and finally, the ritual of purification. It can be lonely or guided, but it needs to be deep. A bath of herbs, a prayer with a naked body under the sky, or days of fasting and recollection. The intention must be clear: to recover what was delivered, seal what was opened, break free from what was signed without conscience. Because not every orgasm ends in bed. Some continue alive in your soul, draining you with each breath. Not every woman who approaches with a smile is offering love. Some bring the ancient archetype of the devourer, the one that feeds on the energy of man without him realizing. It presents itself as pleasure, but it is loss; as affection, but it is a trap. She is the shadow woman, seductive, magnetic, unforgettable, and destructive. Sex with her is different. There is something in him that you addict, that holds. You feel you need it, not just the touch, but the presence, the voice, the smell. And the most disturbing thing is that, after pleasure, a void takes over. A silence that is not peace, but disorientation. This is the vicious cycle: pleasure followed by apathy, will followed by discouragement, I wish followed by pain. This is how your energy is sealed, not with chains, but with sensations. You miss a body that you no longer love you. Look again old photos, remembers the moments as if there was something unfinished. And there are, because the bond was made at a level that transcends the rational. It was not just physical, it was vibrational. The shadow woman knows that. She feels who is spiritually disarmed, and in detecting a fragile man, either by need or by lust, it approaches. Not for love, but for power. There are women who, even without total awareness, carry this ancestral drain programming. And there are men who, without realizing it, deliver their vital power in search of comfort. The illusion of love is established in this cloudy field. You think you're in love, but it is not love. It is energy dependence. The connection you feel is often a tracking bond, a silent spell that stands in the act and strengthens with each relapse. This addiction is deep. This is not a physical addiction, but a vibrational pattern. Her body seems to call you even when you want to forget her. You try to move on, but her image comes back, and come back, and come back, until you think you need it to live. But in fact, it needs it just because it was drained by her. This is why post-orgasm emptiness is so common with this type of woman. She takes you to the climax, and then leaves, literally or spiritually. And you stay on the floor, trying to understand why you are weaker, sadder, more lost. The spell of pleasure has passed, and what is left is the echo of what you lost. Transmuting this trauma is possible, but it is not immediate. We need to look with courage to what happened, understand that there was an invasion, a spiritual kidnapping, and instead of blaming the woman, turn pain into wisdom. There is a lesson there, an initiation. The man who goes through this prison and awakens carries a new look, a new strength. And this force is not born of repressed sex, but from the rescued energy, of the trauma understood, of the recognized shadow. Because once you see the shadow woman, she loses the power to keep you stuck. And what was prison becomes impulse, to the top, inside, for you. There is a time when the man tired of feeling drained rises, still injured, but determined. This is the turning point, when he understands that his energy is not just his, but sacred. He begins the return. And this path is no longer past, but by abstinence. Not by achievements, but for the reconquest of yourself. It is the birth of the celibate warrior. The first decision is firm. Stop delivering the semen. This fluid, which for the modern world is only biology, carries in its essence the divine spark. It is spiritual gold, and when he is no longer wasted, he begins to reverse the lost cycle. Seminal retention becomes an invisible shield, breaking ties that seemed unbreakable. Each day in retention is a subtle cut in unnamed contracts made in the unconsciousness of pleasure. Over time, the warrior's energy field begins to change. Your aura, previously open, vulnerable, easily invaded, reprogram. It is as if she learned again to say no, to repel presences that came only to suck, to attract only what resonates with its new frequency. This process, however, is intense. In the first 21 days of purification, the body screams. Erotic dreams, old memories, uncontrollable drives. It is the system trying to reconfigure itself, and the symptoms of shutdown are real: irritability, insomnia, oscillations. But if you persevere, liberation begins. When crossing this stage, something awakens. The divine male, that ancestral force of direction, protection, and focus, returns. The warrior begins to remember who he is, not as an ego, but as a presence. He begins to feel whole, even alone, complete, even without love. The right woman, when she comes, will not be sought. It will be attracted, because he no longer wants to fill voids, but to share overflowing. Silence becomes your ally, the collection, your sword. While others seek pleasure, he seeks clarity. He walks alone, not for misery, but for sovereignty. It is in this silence that the visions begin. Dreams where bodies speak, where forgotten memories emerge, where unvit truths reveal their faces. The body begins to remember of everything, and every memory is a wire that crumbles. Are you ready to awaken your true power? If you feel that there is something dormant within you, a spiritual force that cries, out for liberation, then the time has come to access a knowledge that has been hidden for centuries. I present my new book, Alchemy of the Gods, a deep journey through the mysteries of Kundalini, crystalline oil, and spiritual liberation. In this book, you cannot find only words. You find keys, rituals, hidden truths. You will learn how to awaken your sleeping energy, activate forgotten energy centers, and reconnect with the divine source of your being. Whether in physical, digital, or audiobook format, Alchemy of the Gods is accessible to everyone who wants true transformation. This is more than a book. It is an initiation, a reprogramming of your destination. Get now by clicking on the link in the description or in the fixed comment. Free yourself. Wake up. Transcender. But first of all, I have a novelty that you didn't expect. If you are immersed on the journey of seminal retention, you need to know my new audiobook, Semen Retention Success Path. More than 2 hours of revealing content about the 6 fundamental pillars of retention: vital energy and personal magnetism, mental clarity and willpower, sexual transmutation and spiritual ascension, emotional self, control, purpose of unshakable life, liberation of vices and limiting standards. This audiobook is the definitive key to restoring its inner strength, reconnecting with its sacred masculine, and living with a clear and high purpose. What's more, when you now get the Semen Retention Success Path, you get 30% off the ebook, The Art of Semen Retention for Men, with 20 pages of advanced techniques for spiritual expansion, emotional balance, and activation of your true destiny. Click on the description link or the fixed comment and start your personal revolution right now. As your energy returns, your presence changes. It is not something you see, it's something you feel. He enters a place and the environment recognizes a man is there, an whole man. A man who no longer negotiates his soul in exchange for pleasure. This man now has a mission, because those who wake up do not awaken by themselves. It becomes a sign for those who still sleep, a flame in the dark, a reminder that there is another way, a path that few have the courage to walk, but it completely transforms those who go through it. When the warrior breaks the last thread, when the invisible bond is finally undone, something changes in the air around him. Reality seems to reorganize. There is a lightness that is not just emotional, it is vibrational. Her body, once heavy from memories and psychic waste, begins to breathe again. The force that was previously sucked now circulates free. The field is cleaned, and the inner silence reveals you have returned to you. Its aura, now intact, emits signs that cannot be pretended. She says, there are no gaps here. Women, friends, environments. It all starts to react differently. Some move away, others approach. But the difference is clear. Now you are seen as a presence, like rock, as something that imposes respect even without speaking. And then, when the spirit world perceives its liberation, the test comes. Temptations increase. They come up with more beauty, more promises, more urgency. It is the snake returning with a new disguise, not to destroy you, but to see if you have really changed. This is the final test. Stay firm even when pleasure calls, when the invitation is sweet, when the touch seems harmless. But now, the body responds differently. Sleep comes back. The focus intensifies. Mental clarity cuts as a sword. You realize that the energy that was once lost in minutes of pleasure now builds full days of productivity, insight, and balance. The body regenerates, and with it, the mind, the soul, and the spirit. Pineal, once asleep, begins to activate. Dreams become visions. Meditations become portals. Perception changes. You begin to see what was hidden before: intentions, manipulations, traps. And with that, it moves more wisdom, without having to protect yourself with masks. And there is something more, a new magnetism. You no longer need to convince, please, impress. The energy speaks for you. It is the silent magnetism of the retaining man, who carries life within himself, who does not surrender for lack, who knows how to expect. In this new state, a new purpose arises. It is no longer a matter of searching, but being. You become an example, not because you want followers, but because it carries a truth that others feel. Its liberation becomes a collective cry, a sign in the spiritual field that a warrior woke up, and this scream echoes in other men, in other souls, because a man who comes back to him drags many others with him. Not everybody is just meat. Some are born with a seal, invisible to the eyes, but deeply recorded in essence. This seal was not placed by human hands, but by the Spirit itself, even before the incarnation. He is a sign of mission, mark of a call that the world does not yet understand, but accompanies the chosen from birth. These spiritual stamps are not apparent physical symbols, but their presence manifests itself in events, emotions, and synchronicities. There are people who carry this code in silence unknowingly, and yet their lives are different. They face battles that have no explanation, suffer insulation without logical cause. They are protected from imminent deaths, removed from toxic people of mysterious forms, because the seal is also a shield. These seals are said to be hidden contracts between the spirit and the sky. Signed before birth, they define the type of mission, the degree of sacrifice, the time to awaken. Not all stamps activate at the same time, but everyone has a deep purpose, aligning man with his true nature and his function within the spiritual plane. Some clues reveal the existence of these seals: birthmarks in unusual places, strange lines on the palms, excessive sensitivity, visions since childhood. These are ancestral signs, and once recognized, they can no longer be ignored, because each seal is unique, and with it comes a task that no one else can do in its place. This is why many chosen ones always felt different. From an early age, they realized they didn't fit. Who felt too much, saw too much, suffered too much. It was not weakness, it was spiritual sensitivity. It was the seal still at rest, vibrating under the skin, waiting for the right time to emerge. And this time always comes. When it arrives, God's silence is broken. But before that, it seems that everything crashes. The heavens shut up. Nothing works out. It is the period of maturity. When the seal cannot open yet, because the body and mind would not be supported yet. But this weight is necessary. That's where the warrior is forged. When the seal is activated, a new force invades the body, often accompanied by pain, crisis, sleepless nights. But there is something that prevents destruction: the invisible protection of the seal. Even when the chosen one is on the brink of collapse, something sustains him. It's not luck. It's divine programming operating in silence. The seal, once awake, begins to change the carrier's destination. Dreams change, relationships collapse, environments become unbearable, and everything seems to crumble. But this is not the end. It is the beginning of activation, because the seal does not come to please. It comes to remember who you are, and to push you, even with pain, where you should never have come from, your mission. The activation of the spiritual seal is not just an invisible event. It transforms the matter. The body, once ignorant of its sacred nature, begins to react. Something changes in the look, gestures, the way breathing comes in and out. The meat, which was once just a vehicle, becomes an altar. And like every altar that receives a divine force, it shakes. The first symptom is insomnia. No matter the physical tiredness, sleep doesn't come. It is as if something inside the body is awake too. The soul, in a wakefulness, refuses rest, because the spirit began to move and the even unconscious consciousness responds. Soon after, unexpected departures arise. Close people begin to distance themselves for no apparent reason. Friends who looked like siblings. Relationships cool. It's not personal, it's vibrational. The newly active seal changes the field around. Who is not ready feels uncomfortable, and the universe, in its silent wisdom, begins cleaning. Stabs for no reason begin to visit the body. They are not cold or fear. They are the touch of the invisible, as if the presence of the spiritual touch the skin of the physical. The column vibrates, the hands shake, the heart shoots, the seal pulses. Technology starts to fail near you. Appliances blink, lock, turn off alone. It is no coincidence. It is the energy that emanates from its newly designed field affecting external electricity. Because now you vibrate at another frequency, and the material world is still adjusting. Emotions become an avalanche. You laugh, cry, silence, all in sequence. The heart seems to no longer know how to behave. But there is a meaning in this. It is the soul trying to adjust feelings to the new vibration. Everything that was repressed rises, not to destroy you, but to purify. And with this emotional wave, an irresistible desire is born to isolate yourself, not for sadness, but by protection. You feel you need silence, solitude, removal, because the external noise hurts, and your spirit wants to speak, but it needs space. A mysterious sensation begins to surround. Something big is coming. You feel it without proof, no explanation. It is the voice of the seal. He is about to lead you to a new cycle, and the body notices. It is like an animal that presents the storm before the sky darkens. At this point, the inner voice begins to strengthen itself. What was once just intuition now seems like a clear whisper. You hear thoughts that are not yours, feels omens, receives images during the bath, in traffic, in dreams. It is the seal activating spiritual communication. And then, what seemed only transformation becomes right. Because each of these experiences is a step. The body is being reconfigured to support the mission. The pain, the tiredness, the ruptures, everything is part of the new architecture. The activation of the seal does not ask for permission. It requires surrender, because it is no longer who you went, but who you were born to become. If your energy lives being sucked, if you feel that you have lost control of your life, maybe it's not unlucky. You may have been sealed without realizing it. What if it's true? What if the reason for your apathy, your anxiety, and your lack of direction is an invisible arrest created by poorly channeled pleasure? It's time to break this cycle. You can't ignore the call anymore. The transformation begins now, and everything you need is within your reach. Leave your like, subscribe to the Gods of Semen channel, and now watch the next recommended video. Don't stop here. Continue your journey. Liberation began.